Welcome to the Geek Homeworld. I am your host, Ed, aka SavageTechman. We talk sci-fi, TV, movies, superheroes, and all from a geek perspective. You can find us on Blogger, Google+, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're everywhere. Join the Geek Homeworld. Hi there, and this is Ed Ciucevich, host of Geek Homeworld podcast, also of Savannah on Film, radio show, and podcast. And we're looking at a D23, that's the Disney 23, special look. Not quite a trailer, not officially a trailer, but a kind of special look of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. And let's get to it and check this out. So this is The Rise of Skywalker. And we'll just cue it up here. Obviously a New Hope there. Empire Strikes Back. Boba Fett. Luke, I am your father. Yoda. Return of the Jedi.
Passed on all we know.
Episode 1.
1,000 generations live in you now.
Episode 2 and now 3. Force Awakens.
But this is your fight.
Last Jedi. Starting a generation. The Star Destroyers comes to an end. C-3PO, Red Eyes, Laser Glass, Ray, training.
Yes, it's him.
And so, let's talk about it. I know it's already been discussed in other videos and talked about, but basically, you see episodes 4, 5, and 6, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, then episodes 1, 2, and 3, the prequels, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and of course, Revenge of the Sith, the best of the prequels. Back when Star Wars was still felt like a creation that I grew up with, that a lot of us grew up with. And, I'm excited for when Force Awakens came out. It's still, box office wise, domestically, it's done like 936 million. So it's still, numbers don't mean everything, because Last Jedi did, episode 8, Last Jedi did about 683 million domestic, but that was the film that split the fandom. And Solo followed, and in between we had Rogue One, which was great. Especially for that Darth Vader scene at the end, which the Star Wars stories, Rogue One and Solo, have been plagued with so many production issues and and directors on the project and off the project, and so they were good. But in the trailer here, they're basically giving you, it's a 2-minute 11-second trailer, or special look as Disney called it at their D23 that they had about a month ago, I think. And they're not calling it a trailer, but it's just like a trip down memory lane to, I think, mend some of the ways with J.J. Abrams back on board as he did The Force Awakens, which was really a soft kind of reboot or homage to the first Star Wars film from 1977, Star Wars. And it was called Star Wars back then. And then later on they added A New Hope to it. So, this trailer or special look was okay. There was a few shocking moments there, and one of them was Rey, of course, at the end, that got the most gasp in the room at D23 when she had a double-edged red lightsaber, and it just like folds down into a staff, because she's been fighting with the staff the whole time, and then using Luke's lightsaber, and a Mary Jane, if there ever was one. We know the whole story. She's overpowered for no reason. All those questions are to be answered supposedly by J.J. Abrams. He planted the seeds in The Force Awakens, which you see in the trailer. After the original trilogy, then the prequel, they show scenes from that in The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and then they show you some relatively new stuff from The Rise of Skywalker. Thinking about it, I would say that there's a lot of ground to cover. There's a lot of things that need to be said, that need to be answered. What are some questions that we need to know? We need to know who Rey's parents are. We need to know if she is a clone, if this is an evil clone that we see at the end of the trailer here, the D23 special look of Rise of Skywalker, or is she's not nobody. Nobody believes that she's nobody, right? Everybody's somebody. Everybody's got a reason, and what Kylo Ren told her, and then when she fell into that little cave or whatever, and then she kept seeing herself, but then she didn't see anything. She's got to be a Skywalker. She's got to be a Kenobi. She's got to be a Palpatine. There are possibilities. There's many ways to go with the story, and many things that they could do, and that would be welcomed by the fans. And so I'm trying not to get excited about it, so I won't get episode 1 excitement and be let down. I tempered that a little bit when The Force Awakens came out, because, well, it's The Force Awakens, and I saw it several times, and I enjoyed it. I was willing to, we have the core of Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, and of course Han Solo, and it was Harrison Ford's decision that Han Solo should die in Force Awakens, and they're using, since Carrie Fisher passed away, they're using footage that from The Force Awakens, I believe. I don't know that there's any. There may be some from The Last Jedi, but mainly for Force Awakens that wasn't used, like parts with Rey, and so they'll bring her into the story. And it's a shame that Carrie Fisher didn't live, because the original plan was J.J. Abrams was going to do all 3, or they were going to have different directors, but the story arc originally was that the first movie would be Han's movie, and he ends up dying in it, because we could sure use him now. I don't know that he's going to come back as a Force Ghost, but I have no idea. Then Princess Leia. This is hard because Princess Leia, she had her Mary Poppins moment, which was terrible, and because the fact of there are so many things wrong with The Last Jedi, and I have episodes on the podcast where we talked about it, and you've probably heard all over the internet what's wrong with The Last Jedi, and cinematically, it's a beautiful movie. Rian Johnson did beautiful. The trailer was shocking. He subverted expectations, definitely. But what the core fans needed to see, we needed to see Luke Skywalker coming out and not cowering and just coming out there, just brandishing his lightsaber for real, not a force projection. And it was beautiful how he passed away into the Force, and I'm confident he'll be back as a Force ghost. Or there'll be some kind of flashback or something. I'm expecting Force ghosts and flashbacks maybe. But anyway, it was very disappointing and shocking. I saw it 3 times, The Last Jedi, before I could get over The Force Awakens I saw. Well, the same with... I think it was the same with both of them, actually. With Han's death, even though after the first time, I obviously knew it was going to happen. And the same thing with Luke's death. It took me 3 watchings of each of them, basically, to kind of say, okay, they're gone. Now, Han's death for his son, for Ben Solo, made sense. It had purpose. And some theories are that, Han knew he wasn't coming out of that alive, but he was kind of a deadbeat dad, and this was his chance to redeem his son, if nothing else, and bring him back to the light. And because Luke had failed him, he failed as a master to his apprentice Ben Solo, and Ben, with the Knights of Ren, destroyed all the other Jedi, and it's just unfortunate how it all turned out. And what Rian Johnson did with Episode 8 really split the fandom, and Kathleen Kennedy, who was given the reins by George Lucas and said, we'll definitely do this, we'll follow the path, basically. I mean, from my understandings, there was a bit of an outline that was put out there by George Lucas, and it was to do with the quills, which is, it gets into like some of the Jedi teaching, so I think they'll incorporate some of that. But Rian Johnson, basically, it was like The Last Jedi was kind of a middle finger to everything that J.J. Abrams set up. And J.J. Abrams did a trilogy of Star Trek films, and they were pretty good. They're not as good as the originals, but, they were good. And, they gave us something new, a different perspective. And even the new characters that J.J. Abrams presented to us, that were presented in Force Awakens, I loved Force Awakens. It's still a good, watchable movie. And I kind of wish Ben Solo had never taken the mask off, And, everything that JJ set up in Force Awakens with Snoke, you've heard these comments before, but with Snoke and him just being cut down so easily, I think they're going to retcon maybe time travel, because according to Star Wars Rebels, time travel is now part of the Star Wars universe. I do not know how I feel about that. Avengers use that. It's kind of when you write yourself into a hole. A lot of films do that. They do the time travel element, and sometimes that works. And, usually I'm good with it, but especially in Star Trek. But even then, there's some issues, I can come up with on that. But seeing how Ryan Johnson just messed everything up. Solo came out. It's not a film that people were looking for. I wasn't impressed with Han Solo. Now, Lando Calrissian, beautiful, perfect in iteration. Childish Gambino, I can't think of his name. Anyway, he did a perfect job of what we would say not Han Solo, but he captured the essence of who Lando Calrissian is. And Han, he was the opposite, his Solo undid a lot of things that that the Han Solo character was. And so I have issues with that. Solo's a good film, and I know Ron Howard was brought in to try to drop as many Easter eggs as he could and try to fix things, and nothing against Ron Howard, but Solo just didn't work. I mean, some people love it, and it is partially a generational thing. If you've been brought up on the prequels, you may have more love for them. You may have a lower expectation of things, and you get to, the last 3 films of the entire Star Wars saga, and then you're highly impressed, especially after Force Awakens. We got off on a good start. I was on board. Last Jedi, I was on board. But over time, Last Jedi just doesn't hold up. There's a lot of problems with it. I have episodes on the podcast, geekhomeworld.libsyn.com. That's geekhomeworld.libsyn.com, or on Apple Podcast. That's it, not Apple iTunes. It's Apple Podcast now. But you can check out some of the previous episodes of the podcast where we talk about The Last Jedi and where it went wrong and things that might have got right, but there's a lot more things wrong than right. And then we get to hear Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, and at first I did not like the title. It's growing on me. It's supposed to be integral, very much a part of the film. It's supposed to kind of bring things around, so it's going to make sense to us in the scheme of things on the film. So, I'm hoping, I want The Rise of Skywalker to be the biggest film ever in the history of cinema. And I want it to mean something beyond a science fiction film, beyond just pure fantasy. Avengers Endgame was total fan service, probably too much fan service. But if any franchise needs to do some fan service, they need to do it. If they're bringing back Palpatine, then doggone it, let's call Mustafar. Let's go down all these rabbit holes. I want Darth Plagueis in there, or tell me that Palpatine did an essence transfer. But then there's been talk, does that cheapen the ending of Return of the Jedi? Luke good defeating evil, essentially, and Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, turning back to the light. But the Emperor still is around, and I don't know. It all depends how this film goes. And I'm going to go in with the most open of minds. I usually do with a film, and sometimes I like films immediately. There's things about it I like. There's things sometimes I don't like. But I try to find those nuggets of goodness within a film, and I'm definitely going to do that with The Rise of Skywalker. It sums up, it's a big part, a big ending for something that's been dear to my heart. And if you're looking at some of the backdrop here in the studio, I've got tons of, I've got a lot of Marvel stuff, but I've got, oops, I'm pointing the wrong way. If you see, there's, I've got some BB-8 paraphernalia there. There's BB-8 again. Got a lot of stuff, and you can't see the whole bunch of stuff I have. You can't see my novels over there to my right, your left, whatever. My X-Wing fighters, my TIE fighters, all the Star Wars films on every format, all the books that are not canon, which I don't understand. Darth Plagueis is probably my favorite novelization. That and The Rise of Skywalker. The Rise of Vader. Some wonderful books. The Episode 3 novelization, of course, was great. And I just want J.J. Abrams, now that he's back, and I know he consulted with George Lucas on how to film the scenes that were done with Mark Hamill, and Mark Hamill's probably been the fans' greatest ally. He's just an actor. He just doesn't have story control. But when he read this, he's like, I don't know who this guy is. He said to Rian Johnson, but this isn't Luke Skywalker. This isn't the Luke Skywalker we know. And the fans are not going to like it. And, didn't matter. So it didn't matter to Rian Johnson, to Kathleen Kennedy, or anybody. There's been some bashing of the fans and saying that, we don't like all these messages and progressivism in the film. And there's some truth to that. There's some people that are trolls. Star Wars fans are the hardest to please. But we really feel, or as part of the Star Wars community, I really feel that we're owed the best send-off possible. And there are some people, there's no way they were burned so bad by the negative backlash and by just how terrible and not to the true essence of the characters of Luke Skywalker and all that. Obviously, Carrie Fisher, we couldn't help, because she passed, but it was just that neglect for staying true to who Luke Skywalker is. And yes, it would have been cliche, but we needed cliche if that meant that Luke would come out and face Kylo, and he didn't have to defeat him. He could try to turn him, but I still don't think that Kylo is going to be a bad guy unless he really, really just goes to the dark side and he really embraces it. And I hate to say this, but they should have killed off General Organa, Princess Leia, her character, when she got blasted out of the ship. And there was even a plot hole where Kylo hesitated and he didn't shoot, but one of his wingmen did. And then, blew up the ship. And then she did the Mary Poppins thing, which is terrible. And it would be okay if she ever showed that level or any level at all of using the Force, other than, I think Luke's okay, he'll be fine, or whatever. Or somehow I always knew, that Darth Vader's my dad, Return of the Jedi stuff. But some of the novelizations go into greater detail and of that, and I really, really, really need The Rise of Skywalker to be phenomenal. It needs to. I don't even care if you bring back Jar Jar Binks. At this point, you can make Jar Jar Darth Sidious for all I care. That would just be crazy. It's like throwing anything at the wall and hoping that it sticks. But we need a satisfying arc with Luke. J.J. Abrams has a lot of pressure from the film community, Star Wars fans in general, because he's got a lot of loose ends that he has to tie up. And if he doesn't, you're not going to please everybody all the time, but you need to please the Star Wars fans this time. And it's just very important. It has to happen. And we all really want to see it happen. We want to see it come to a fruition that what we want out of a Star Wars film, he's wrapping up the prequels, the originals, the prequels, and this trilogy. So really, he's wrapping up 8 films in the 9th films. He's wrapping up 3 trilogies, and he realizes it. He said, yeah, I'm wrapping up 3 trilogies. I've got to, put a bow on this thing and make it wonderful. And it doesn't have, and it can be, heroic as heck. It can be, there can be some people that can't be saved. Maybe Ben Solo chooses not to be saved or something. I don't know. Maybe Snoke or Plagueis or Emperor Palpatine, turn him. Maybe I don't for a minute think that, and I think about this because I've been to Disney and I haven't been since they opened the I can't think of what it's called, with the Millennium Falcon, Galaxy's Edge. I know it opened in California to less than stellar numbers, and it opened just end of last month. It's September 7th when I'm recording this, which happens to be the actual 5-year anniversary of the Geek Homeworld podcast, and also 11 years that I've been podcasting, so yay. Anyway, but I'm going to bring this podcast episode soon to a close. And I just, it's September, so October, November, December, less than 3 months, just about 3 months actually, because I think December 20th is when The Rise of Skywalker comes out. I'll be there, and I may see it several times, even if it's bad. But I want to be blown away. I want it to be one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. An early Christmas present that will last forever. I want them, the filmmakers, the powers that be, I want them to listen to the fans, and hopefully they've seen by the lost revenue on some films and such, if you can, please wrap it up the right way. I mean, sometimes you have to give the fans exactly what they want. But sometimes when you give people exactly what they want, it's not really what they need. So, I don't know what to say to that other than I think we're all a little selfish, and we have a right to be, that we want The Rise of Skywalker to be everything a Star Wars film should be. It needs to be nostalgic. It needs to pull on the heartstrings. It needs to... I know John Williams always brings his A game, and it's going to be weird. I was watching a video the other day, and there was a question, and they said, well, are we not going to hear that? Are we not going to have the Star Wars crawl anymore after Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker? Are we not going to hear any John Williams music anymore? And, that, thought never occurred to me. And that's Star Wars. In fact, growing up with the VHS tapes, watching it on TV many times, going to theaters, I always thought the 20th Century Fox opening was part of... I mean, I had the album. I still have the album. I think I have it for Empire Strikes Back over there. On my shelf, one of my shelves over there with my collectibles. But I always thought the 20th Century Fox beginning, the dun 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 dun, I thought that was I knew it wasn't part of the theme, but growing up I kind of thought it was, and it just kind of fit perfectly. And then of course you'd see, Once Upon a Time in a Galaxy Far, Far Away, and then that John Williams score hits, and you're just magically drawn in, and that score says everything. It represents so much that it's such an important part of Star Wars. And I remember Rogue One when there was no crawl and there was no John Williams music. I'm like, oh gosh, what's going on? This doesn't feel right. But the film's good, and Rogue One is one of my favorites, especially for the last scene, the Vader scene. Oh my gosh, that is to die for. It is just, quite literally, if you were in that room, in that corridor, you did. I would like Anakin to come back. I want them to tie his story up. I don't. If everybody's holding hands and happy and they're all Force ghosts and everything, and they put Carrie Fisher in there as a Force ghost, excuse me, or if they just say she's kind of done and just have a few scenes, pivotal scenes, and then you don't see her anymore. I don't know. I know they're not going to digitally recreate anything, and I'm actually glad they didn't. To me, I think it worked in Rogue One when they used like a stand-in and did like the face de-aging, and when they did, is it Tarkin? When they did him, some people now say they didn't like that. I thought it was good. I thought it was okay. It worked within the storyline. I was willing to suspend a little bit of disbelief knowing that actor's long since passed. But we're getting to the part of AI and facial recognition and stuff that you can do with computers now, with effects that you can basically put any person or any actor or whatever who's passed, you could put them in the film. They could, if they really wanted to. They have the industrial light and magic technology to do it. They can make it happen. They could totally make it happen and make it believable. I think it's like not a great movie, but Captain Marvel, I didn't like it as much as some did. Surprised it made $1 billion, but I think the de-aging, I call it de-aging, I don't know if that's the proper term, of Nick Fury in that film, Samuel L. Jackson, I think it was flawless. It's amazing. There were a few shots where it looked a little, sketchy, but all in all, I'm so impressed with that. They did it with Michael Douglas, I think, in Ant-Man, and the Wasp, I believe, the second one. And so anyway, Disney has brilliantly handled Marvel, mainly because Kevin Feige, anyway. But Star Wars, like the indestructible juggernaut that permeates our society. I watched a video that really talked about how generational Star Wars is, and it became like a thing. And so kids now are coming up, of the impressionable ages, the younger ages, they're more into Marvel than they are into Star Wars. And that's like a first, and I will be one of the first people to sign up for Disney Plus. I love that Ewan McGregor is coming back and doing an Obi-Wan show. Even if it's 6 episodes, I don't care. It's just awesome to have him back and to play Obi-Wan and to bridge the gap for us. We've already, Rebels is kind of, Star Wars Rebels kind of already did that, but that's okay. They can still put it out, and I will still watch it, and I'm excited for Disney Plus. All aboard when it comes to that. I cannot wait. The Mandalorian, oh my gosh, it's going to be awesome. Boba Fett or not, I don't, yes, I want to see why Boba Fett's the biggest, baddest, bounty hunter in the galaxy. And I want to see why. And I want to see a backstory there, And other than what we saw in episode 2, Attack of the Clones, when he was young and saw Jango, his dad, get his head chopped off, he was the template for all the clone army. And so, you know, I'm excited. But I'm keeping my excitement to a minimum. I'm doing my best. Let me know in the comments here on this may appear, hopefully, if it turns out well on YouTube, and it'll also be in other apps, but also on Libsyn, geekhomeworld.libsyn.com. May even end up on the Facebook page there. And but anyway, let me know what your thoughts are on the Rise of Skywalker. There's some people that are just done. They're just like, I'm over it. I'm over it for the fact that this faction is fighting with this faction. You know, it's it's like the Empire and the Rebels, you know, fighting, and they're fighting for the love of Star Wars. It's like love and hate and all that stuff. And some people are just burned out. I'm a little burned out, but all in all, I am a Star Wars fan. I'll always be a Star Wars fan, no matter how this film turns out, no matter what happens on Disney Plus. But I really, really, really just want The Rise of Skywalker to turn out well. And I know I'm not alone with that. So I'm super excited for it. And let's just watch that trailer one last time, okay? Let's go back to that. Let me rewind everything here. Take you back, and let's just watch The Rise of Skywalker. And here we go. Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, D23 special look.
Generations live in you now. But this is your fight. Yes, it's in.
So that's it. Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. Thank you for joining me on this episode, this discussion of the Star Wars Skywalker Saga. I guess that's what we'll call it, or what they're calling it. And let us know what you think, what your thoughts are, and yeah, it's going to be good. Thinking positive thoughts. J.J. Abrams is going to save the Skywalker Saga. It's going to happen. And I'm excited. I'm excited for it. So anyway, thank you for listening. Check us out on Geek Homeworld. We're on Apple Podcast, Geek Homeworld. You can listen on the Google Podcast app, which is pretty simple and awesome to use. We're on all the major outlets that there are. So check out Geek Homeworld, if you will. Check out our Facebook page. I may be doing some, if people ask for it, I may be doing some of these videos. I may be doing them live on Facebook, like some Facebook Lives, where we can do questions and we can interact. And of course, I'll always record it, my handy recorder next to me here. And this will always exist as an audio podcast, but I'm trying to add some video elements to it. So I'm working on my whole visual part of it. So it's a work in progress. You can't tell right here, but this is a Snuggie. You can't really see, but one of my relatives gave this to me, and I've got like a couch here in the studio for like video games and watching TV and stuff like that, and streaming to the television, and maybe in some future video episodes, I'll show you around the studio. It's still kind of under construction. I've still got a lot of pictures to hang. There's some bare walls. I'm not good with camera angles here, but there's bare walls here that'll have some pictures or something up, and I got a lot of plans for the podcast, and we're heading into our 6th year of the Geek Homeworld podcast, so I'm extremely excited about that, and I'm going to continue to grow this. I kind of wish I would have got on the video bandwagon YouTube / side of things earlier on, but I'm really focused on the content. Content's everything. Presentation is important, yes, and so a lot of things going on. I'm gonna not talk forever. So anyway, I'm gonna bring this show to an end. This was totally unscripted. It's just my thoughts, my feelings that I think mirror a lot of feelings that Star Wars fans feel. So you may agree with me, parts of what I've said. You may totally disagree. Who knows? We all have an opinion. So anyway, what I was saying, and this is how I forget things, right? Okay, this Snuggie thing here, it's actually a stormtrooper thing. So it's kind of cool. You can't tell my light here, and if you're on the audio podcast, it means nothing. But I've got this nice color changing light. But my lighting, I don't know that my lighting is so great. On the video here, you may be able to tell that, like looking up there, you can see how it changes. Right now it's blue, and it changes to green, all these different colors, red. All right, I'm yapping. So check out Geek Homeworld. Check out Geek Homeworld on Facebook. Go there and like it for me. That would be awesome. Follow us, follow the podcast, and we've got more to come. So I think this will be episode 120, and it happens to be recorded I just recorded another one where I did Terminator Dark Fate, and it was the 5th anniversary episode, which was actually shorter than this, believe it or not. And I did on that episode, I kind of celebrating that a little bit. Didn't talk too much about it, but it's the 5th anniversary episode 119, so please check that out. And it's on Facebook, Geek Homeworld Facebook. It's also on Libsyn, where the main host is the main host of the audio portion of the podcast, and great service there. I love Libsyn, so great analytics too. If you're looking for a podcast, that's a good place you might want to try. So I got a lot of super fun things I want to do. I have a whole bench area over here, kind of a table that I've envisioned in the studio here. And one day I'll do a studio tour. But it's it's going to be like kind of a workstation kind of thing. And now that I've got I got a Logitech C920 webcam, and I'm trying to figure out how to integrate it into different things. I'm thinking of Streamlabs. I'm thinking about OBS. And yes, I could have probably done some of this through that, but I'm actually using the Logitech software to do this, to record this, and it seems to work a little bit better, but the functionality isn't everything I want to do. I can't put like different like logos and crawl across the bottom of the screen that tells where we are and stuff like that. But anyway, so I gotta go. But anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this, and please let me know your thoughts and your opinions, and be nice. I don't want any negative feedback. I can't handle it. I don't want it. Anyway, so I love Star Wars. So thank you for letting me talk with you about the Skywalker Saga. All right. Thank you. And everybody take care. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Geek Homeworld with your host, SavageTechman. You can find us on Libsyn, Google+, follow and interact with us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, listen to us on iTunes and leave a review, subscribe to us on YouTube, read our thoughts on Blogger. See you again on the Geek Homeworld.